We're live. You are looking live. The True Success Show. Finally, we got a name. Woo.
Yeah.
After what? 3 months of nameless. We were nameless. We were wandering in the desert for 40 years. No name, no nothing. So finally got a name.
Crossing the Jordan, Jack. We're crossing the Jordan.
God parted the sea. We finally have some branding going down, a name. Welcome to the True Success Show. How's everybody doing? Great to see you this Wednesday, May 11th. Everybody's doing great. Chris, you want to tell people who you are?
Hey, everybody. Good morning, man. Chris Simpson, 23 years Secret Service agent. Man, I had a chance to protect presidents, 43 different countries, 7 different ones. Before this, I was a Marine officer. I've had a great opportunity to serve this country. It's just been an opportunity of a lifetime to do that. But now I'm joining these 2 incredible men. We're going to talk to you guys about a great topic today.
Amen. Mike, good luck following that. Good luck following
that.
Next week,
I've been in sales since 1988. I'll let you do the math on that. I've been in sales management since 1994. And I've been in about 5 different industries since then. And I love selling. I love talking about sales. And met a guy named Jesus Christ in 1997. Just changed a little bit of everything around that. But we love to train people up in how to sell and make more revenue for the company, because it's the companies in our area, in our community, that bring the value that makes philanthropy and ministry and everything else possible.
Yes.
Right.
Mike and his wife's company down below, sameteamselling.com. Amazing organization. Help people figure out what they're doing, their sales. It's amazing. So cannot recommend them enough. Our companies use them. So full disclosure, amazing. So my name is Jack Sani. Thank you for joining us. The True Success Show, as it says, not just talking about success, but really true success. And, we were talking before the show, and it's like you hear a lot of things out there in the world. And what we really want to help folks get to is like happiness and peacefulness. And what does that mean for you? Not what the world says every single day, which is, hey, if you just have a big house and a big car and a big bank account, and maybe you'll be happy. And the reality is, I think if you study all the folks that have that, there's no correlation between any of those things and having success in your life. And so that's what we really want to talk about. That's the intent of this show. And so before we jump in, I want to thank our sponsor. You may not know, we are sponsored. Where is it? Oh,
I.Help.
There you go. We're sponsored by the folks at I.Help. Amazing platform. They literally, I think I also have a graphic. Let me see. Oh, I'm trying to direct the show and do it. Oh, there you go. Look, they have all these things that they do for you. Go get your I.Help account, $5 a month. They literally aggregate everything and every way you're trying to reach out to the world. If you're building a brand, or if you're in sales, or if you have an entrepreneurial venture or a company or whatever you're doing, the ability to share that with folks with one link. Go to I.Help/the name of your company or your name. All your stuff's there, right? Your website, your social media links, a podcast, video, how to contact you via email, all this stuff, your web conferencing, your schedule. If you want to share that, you can do that. So I.Help, amazing, wave of the future. It's like one of those cutting edge things we're blessed to know about, and will explode here over the next 2 or 3 years. And so cannot recommend, endorse I.Help enough. They ran into us and said, hey, we'll sponsor your show. I'm like, yes, that's what we need. A top million. Let's see, hold on. I think I have that graph too. Top million LinkedIn. Top million LinkedIn Live. We got a sponsor, so we're moving up in the world. So that's so funny, but good.
Yeah, man.
There it is. I.Help in. Hey, today's topic is preparedness, and before I get to that, what's really interesting, today's May 11th. We're actually on our 11th characteristic of success. So for the beginning of this year, for the last couple of months, we've really been talking about what are traits of success, and then for the rest of the year, we're really going to deep dive into some of the parameters and things that help you be successful. And so that list, I just want to go down the traits that we've talked about being successful. If you've missed some of the previous shows, are persistence, having courage, charisma. Do you need charisma to be successful? Integrity, focus, right? So those are the first 5. And then redemption, the ability to kind of come back from being down. We all need that. Persuasiveness, self-awareness, conflict, which is really interesting. You have to have some conflict to have success, intuition. And then today we're going to talk about preparedness. I was like, what's the right word? To be prepared, preparedness. And so Mike and Chris were like, yeah, the right word is preparedness, right? Which I was battling that out. Those guys were cleaning me up, right? When you guys were cleaning up my English, my language, when you picked the words. Thank goodness for that process. So what really brought that up is, hold on. Yeah, here you go. So literally, if you, this past weekend, right, if you had the chance to watch the Kentucky Derby, you probably, if you're just not a sports fan, you probably saw 80-1 shot, right? Came in amazing, right? Rich Strike, so funny, interesting name. Rich Strike comes in, 80-1 long shot, but it's really the story behind the story of that horse and that race team, which if you're unaware, just quickly, literally Friday morning before the race, so the race is Sunday at 7 o'clock, literally Friday morning, they're not in the race, literally not in the race at all, not in the Kentucky Derby at all. The 20th horse that was in that post literally had to drop out of the race Friday morning, and they were prepared, and they're like, oh, we have this opening, and they took that 20th slot, a horse that the owner bought, I think, many years ago for 30 grand on the cheap. And so that horse, Rich Strike, winds up getting in the race Friday morning, being the longest shot in the race by far, the second longest shot ever, and wins that race in the final quarter mile. Amazing, amazing story about being prepared.
You know, Jack, they interviewed the trainer who was, a partner with the owner, right? So the two of them teamed up, and they asked him, are you surprised that you won today? Yeah. He said, not at all. He said, we made a commitment to each other when we first formed our partnership that we would never enter a horse into any race that we didn't think was prepared to win.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Awesome, man. I tell you what, Jack, the list that you kind of went over to start us out, isn't that a picture of kind of all of the things that this team, this horse, these trainers have kind of walked through? Like, we're going to talk about preparedness today, but man, a lot of those topics that we've been hitting upon previously. I mean, this whole team is walking through that, right? Like they persevered, like they've gotten up off the mat when they didn't make a race cut. You know what I'm saying? Like all of these things, man, they bounce back from, and look what happens. Like when you're ready to step into the light, when the light shines on you and you're ready, look what happens. It's incredible. What a picture, not only for them, but for all of us, really, isn't it?
I'm not even a horse race fan. Some years I watch it, some years not. I'm a Preakness of the Preakness is in Baltimore. I'm from Baltimore, so I normally watch that race. But the Kentucky Derby's hit or miss, and it all lined up, and I'm watching it, and I see a little pre-show, and then I was sucked in for an hour after the race, just watching this, like the Olympics. In the Olympics, they like tell you the backstory of the person and what they're doing and how they explode, and so really amazing. I loved that story, and so for me, one of the most important parts is like we feel like I had this on my social media, like, hey, when opportunity comes, I'll be ready, or I'm going to get ready. Like I'm really planning for 6 months from now or 2 years from now. I'm in college, or I'm taking a course, or I'm working out, or, I have a mentor. And the reality is, I think one of the many things that came through that race was like, you don't know when opportunity shows up, right? You want to plan it. You'd like to be prepared, but the reality is I think no one's prepared, right? Even the best, most famous people we know probably were not prepared to the craziness that the Elon Musk, he's such in the news right now. Like, I don't think if you ran into him at, 17, he's like, well, I'm going to explode. I'm going to buy Twitter one day. I'm the richest man in America, over the world, It's like when it comes, right, it's like not on our schedule. And so that's so much of being prepared. It's not on a schedule at all, right? The opportunity to come, right?
Oh, yeah. You know what? I was thinking about how this is played out in the Bible, right? Like, so Jesus told this parable called the parable of the talents in Matthew 25. And the whole idea behind it is, so the Lord comes in, he has these three servants, and he gives each of one of them a talent, which is basically 20-year salary for a laborer back then. It's a lot of money, right? But the use of the word talent also applies in different ways for us as well, right? So he gives 5 talents to one of the servants, 2 to the next, and 1 to the next, and then he leaves. Right. And the expectation was that those servants would take those talents and they would do something with them. Like they would maximize them. They would invest them. They would grow them. And what happens in the story is, briefly, the one with the 5 comes back. He doubles it. The one with 2 comes back. He doubles it. And the third, he does nothing with it. He sits on it. And with the story being that the Lord was upset with the last one. For the first one, he's like, you've been incredible. You've taken what I've given you. You've worked at it, you've grown it, you've honed it, and look at the return. You were ready for my return. When I came back to that show me moment, like, hey, you've been in preparation mode this whole time. I'd left you. What have you been doing? And when the show me moment came, he brings in a double what he was given. The next guy, a double, and the third guy, nothing. During that in-between stage, which is quite honestly where we spend most of our time, is in the in-between stage, right? The show me moments, like those slices of life where it's time for the rubber to meet the road, like those are kind of few and far between, and you don't know when they're going to show up.
Yeah, that's
so in this parable, the Lord didn't tell him when he was coming back. He just said, here it is. Here's your opportunity. Here's your talents. Here's your skill sets. And what are you going to do with it? That's the question. He left. And so that's really a story for a lot of us, right? Yep. Like we have all of this time on the in-between, the moment between we've given an opportunity, a skill set, and some persuasiveness in our life. The question is, what are you doing when no one's looking in the in-between time? Yeah, when the spotlight comes, you never know, right? You just don't know.
Yep. You're either getting ready for life or life's going to happen to you. And if life happens to you and you're not ready, you're just part of the backwash. It's like you can be part of, sometimes when I'm in traffic, I say to myself, Mike, you can be part of the problem or you can be part of the solution. Sometimes the part of the problem is faster, right? But I have to make that choice to say I'm going to be part of the solution, right? And so, but when you think about when people are trying to, they want to do great, but they're not willing to do the work, that in-between time, Chris, is so important because really the in-between time is most of our life. Most of our life is not top of the mountain moments. Most of our life is either down in the valley or somewhere in the side of the mountain somewhere. And so as we're climbing through life, are we getting ready? Are we sharpening the axe? Are we doing the things? Are we reading books? Are we hanging out with people that have already been up the mountain, right? Or at least people that are higher up in the mountain than we are? Are we making time to get to know, hey, if you were down where I am on the mountain, what would you do differently between where I am and where you are? And that's all part of preparation.
It's interesting. That's in the story you share, the biblical story, Chris, as you referenced quickly, God, and back in the day, he's talking about talents is money. And it's just so interesting how he knows how we're going to do it as we get older. And today it's our talents, right? I think for most people, the focus is money. Well, if I had the money, I could do this, or I'd invest in that, and . And I would just say for everybody, that's fool's gold, right? Yeah. Because it's like God has given us all a set of talents, a set of things you're great at. And by the way, if you're unaware what those are, there's a series of diagnostic testing you can do. Like, hey, what are you intuitively really good at? Some people love speaking in front of crowds. Some are scared. Most people are scared to death. Some people are great at technology, can code the crap out of something. Some can't even log into the internet, right? And so, but everybody has something that they can bring to the table. And it's like, hey, what is your set of talents, right? And are you honing them and getting them ready so that when the moment comes, you are prepared? Because again, I think a lot of people feel like, oh, one day, hit the lottery, 3 years from now, 10 years from now, and you just never know when the stars all align and your moment comes. And if you follow the biographies of the super successful, the famous people, because they get the books written about them and the documentaries and almost all of them have that thing. Like very few of them go, yeah, I had this 5-year plan and I went to this and then it happened, and then it all worked out. They're all like, I was just doing my thing. Like Oprah's like, I was doing my thing. And then the person who was hosting the show got sick. And all of a sudden I was hosting the show. And I was, it came, but she was prepared for the moment. And so I just, that is the biggest thing. Like, are you doing the things so that you are prepared with your talent that you've been given, right?
So true, man. Like, I love how, so Paul tells Timothy in 2 Timothy 4, he's like, be ready in season and out of season. Like, what's he talking about there? But what he's talking about is like, look, we don't know when the change of seasons are going to happen. He's saying just be ready. I posted something yesterday on social media how, look, there's a massive lie out there that says if you just got to be a future version of you, like that better version of you, you would reach a certain milestone in life. And so you end up chasing these identities, right, through life. When quite honestly, the greatest impact that any of us are meant to have is walking in the skill sets, personalities, compulsions, and bents that you already have. The question is, are you going to take those that you've been given? I mean, you've been divinely gifted in so many ways. Are you going to take those, multiply them to the greatest capacity that you can, and watch what God does in the calling you've been called into, right? If I try to be a Walmart version of Jack or a counterfeit version of Mike, like I'm playing out of position. I talked about this last week. When I play out of position, I'm not near as impactful, right? So I'm going to start taking what I've been given, prepare, hone, and shape that where I'm at. And when the season changes, I'll be ready. And don't listen to the world, man. They're gonna try and tempt you into chasing after this future version of you that, quite honestly, we just never get there, brothers. We just never reach that. It's all in getting ready what we have right now. Jack, you hit upon it perfectly.
Yeah. Tom Brady playing offensive line, not good. So sorry, Mike. Right? Did you guys see his quick side note? Did you see Brady sign? He's not retiring. A 10-year, $350 million contract with Fox to be announced. That dude, cheesy. He is just making it happen. Isn't it crazy?
Wait, isn't that? Look at Fox News. Look what Fox Sports did. They're planning.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
nice tie in there. Nice.
Right? They're like, hey, we see it coming.
Yeah.
We'd be foolish not to act if we're guaranteed he's going to be the man. We see him showing up. His face is popping up everywhere on TV accidentally.
That's great.
And so because of that, we need to lock that in, right?
What a great tie, right? Because, they lost Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, right, to Monday Night Football. So you're right. It's like them planning. He's not available this year, right? It's them planning for like the next decade. What do we want to do? There's no bigger brand name in football. It's almost like when Madden came out. There's no bigger name than Tom Brady, right? That's in good hands. Right?
Brady hardly ever got on TV anyway. Like, he's not like a huge talker. So they figure, man, people are going to want to see this guy. They're going to actually hear him speak. Right? Because you don't really get it. You don't get the inside track to Brady very often. Like, he just doesn't give a lot of in-depth interviews. But boy, people are going to tune in now. They were really, really playing their cards right on that.
Really good. Nice tie-in, Mike. I used to have somebody who worked in my staff. He had this phrase in today's topic. He's like, hey, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Right. And so we used to say, like, are you ready? Are you ready? And that he'd go around the office. He's a really interesting guy. And he was like one of those motivational, always up guys. He's like, hey, man, you ready to go? He's like, I'm ready. Like, I stay ready so I don't have to get ready. Right. And so it was kind of like an interesting little shtick he had. But when I was, thinking about this show, that's really what stuck with me. It's like, hey, are you ready all the time so you don't have to get ready? And it's such a thing because, again, we don't know when it's going to come. We don't know when the moment and we don't talk about it a lot, and documentaries are not made and books are not made about folks that had their moment, they weren't ready, and they think, well, I'll get it next time. And like the way life, the way the world happens to us, maybe you don't get a second shot, and so that can be super disheartening and worrisome. But if you're ready, staying ready and always on point, and I would just say this, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, your first time out, like, you don't have to be whoever. You don't have to be Elon Musk, as an entrepreneur, or Oprah as a broadcaster, or whoever you admire as a leader. You know what I mean? But you get and doing your best so that maybe it's not the thing you want to be. But if you go out, do it, and you are peaceful about it, like, that's what it's about. You just don't want to put your head on the pillow and go, I missed it. I totally didn't get it done. But if you do your best and maybe it doesn't turn out how you wanted, but you put all of it into it. It was your best stuff. You gave it all. I mean, that's what you want to do. You'll lay down and be like, that's good. I'm cool how it ended. It's all good, right?
I think that's so awesome. So many things we're talking about right now. I wasn't thinking about it before the show, but it's reminding me of Jim Collins' Good to Great, that when you talk about your talents and your strengths, he calls that your hedgehog. Like, what is the thing that God made you wonderful at? What's your strength? What's your superpower? Right? What are those things? And he says, that's your hedgehog. That's the thing you need to invest on, right? And so, or invest in and keep working on it. But then he talks about this flywheel. And he says the flywheel in your mind, you're supposed to think about it like it's this gigantic, I see it as cement, right? It's cement and it weighs 75,000 tons and it's just huge. It's got this little handle on it, just big enough for my hands. And my job is to push it every day. And some days it doesn't feel like it moved at all, right? My job is to push it every day. And then one day he says it's like, you just don't know. It just looks like a flat line of life. Your life looks like a flat line, but you're pushing that flywheel every day. And then one day, the whole world calls it the hockey stick, right? It just, boom. It took like, whoa, what happened? Well, he faithfully pushed the flywheel every day. Yeah. And that's that preparation. That's that I'm not there yet, but I'm going to get there, and I'm going to do what it takes. And it also, not just in doing the things, but listen, if you want to make the long haul and have a good story that ends well, you got to say no to some things that are very, very tempting and enticing along the way. You just got to go, nope, that ain't for me. You've got to know what's important to you in the future. That guy Chris talked about, that guy in the future. Listen, if what you're being tempted with doesn't align with him being him later, you got to say no to that, because in our world today, the Bible says, probably over 2,000 years ago, it says nothing will be hidden is that will not be revealed. And here's the interesting thing. In our world today, I don't know what it was like back then, but now it is so true. There's a camera on you somewhere, everywhere, all the time. And Alexa is listening. And so, Siri is listening. So you think you're alone. You're never alone.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be revealed. Make sure if your whole life is revealed, you're proud of it, not ashamed of it.
Yeah. Well, that's so true, man.
Thank goodness they didn't have cameras back in the day, right?
Wow.
Yeah,
man. Now, an author who I really enjoy named John Bevere, he wrote a book called X. It's called Multiplying Your God-Given Potential. And in that, he says that God tests you throughout your life. Like every one of us, all three of us, God is testing us throughout our life. And part of that testing is a testing of obedience. Like, what are you doing when no one's looking? Right? Like what are you doing when you're not the spotlight, when you're not the one on the stage, when you're not the one, right, giving the massive presentation? What are you doing in the meantime, right? And so that's a test of obedience, because quite honestly, the expectation from God is not for maintenance of our gifts. What is multiplication of our gifts? And that's the whole idea behind the parable I started the whole session out with today is, look, the last guy, the guy that just sat on his gifts, the guy that just sat on his skills, that sat on his talents and did nothing to multiply them, he was counted as wicked. It wasn't like he was given the pass. No, he was counted as wicked and slothful. And look, that's a part of our testing in life. Each one of us, man, Jack, you've been given certain skills and unique giftings. Mike, same thing for you, same thing for me. The question is, what am I doing with those things? Yep. Am I investing in myself to his glory and out of gratefulness of the things I've been given? Am I taking those things and multiplying them for greater impact? Or am I just sitting on them in a maintenance mode? Because maintenance mode is not going to get you or anybody else who you care for anywhere.
Yeah. And I want to connect one dot for the audience, which is, hey, you always need to be prepared, right? Like doing your best in the moment to stay ready for the opportunity. But also, I think one of the things that Mike had said too was like, hey, having a longer term perspective, because that's not prevalent in today's society. We live in a McDonald's society. Like, hey, I did a post. How many likes did I get? How many people looked at it? Or, hey, I need it tomorrow. Or, hey, I'll be diligent. I'll run for 2 weeks. Will I be able to run a marathon then? We've lost some of that farmer's mentality of, hey, I'm really planning for 6 months from now or 2 years from now. And so there is a balance, and being prepared is also saying no, but also knowing where are you going. And I think what's really interesting, Chris, I know you're around some of the high level politicians. You see it in politics all the time. Like in the last 5 years, regardless of what side of the spectrum you're on, when you watch what's happening with just say with pot becoming legal, or some of the gay rights issues, or now with Roe v. Wade, those are topics that have been picked on and talked about and moved the ball on, or or smoking. You talk about my wife's a smoker, right? Hey, you went from smoking everywhere you could smoke. People might not know this, the younger people. You used to smoke in a plane. Now just think about, you're in a plane and someone's smoking. Now you can't even smoke outside at a stadium, right? So it's just the constant like, hey, this is important. I'm going to stay with it. And so some of those things, to be able to hey, what are you trying to get done, so that when it's done, when we're standing in front of the Lord and, hey, well done, good and faithful servant, what are the big things you want to have done? Because too often, both with our finances and our daily life, we kind of let the little details, kind of dominate our life, instead of in making sure we're getting the big things done. And then that's how we stay prepared, right? Am I being a good father? Am I being a good spouse? Am I being a good leader at work? Big things, not, hey, did I get the best deal with a coupon at Home Depot yesterday, right? That's not, and no one's going to say that at your funeral. Jack was such a coupon clipper. Not going to play out that way, right?
It's the people we influence, right? I mean, because a multiplier isn't multiply. It is multiplying me, but man, the exponential power is multiplying the people around me, right? What am I doing to raise up the people around me? And there's a really cool book there. It's called Multipliers, right? By Meg. Anyway, I won't guess, but Multipliers. And in the book, she says two kinds of people. There's multipliers and there's depleters. And what's interesting, they both could be the head of the division. They both could have hired the smartest people. But one of the things that was so interesting to me is I've always appreciated somebody that says there's no ceiling on our team. We're going. If you're smarter than me, great. I'm glad you're on the team. Versus the other person that says, listen, I'm the smartest guy in the room here. We all know that. So don't think you're smarter than me. I'll tell you how it is. And those people, it's interesting. There's another book I think it's called Our Ship. But it's really cool. The guy turned around from one of the worst ships in the Navy.
Oh yeah, I have that
being the ship in the Navy. And what did and the crew was supposed to be the worst crew in the Navy.
Yep.
They changed the leader.
Yep.
They changed the leader. One guy said, this is my ship and you're going to do it my way. The other guy said, not my ship, our ship. And in that shift, right? He replaced the depleter and became the multiplier. And in that it's just amazing how a good leader can change every individual's talent, right? Like, oh, that guy's a B player. Well, great. Under this leader, he's an A+ player, right? And so it's just amazing how what potential we have that we can bring out the best in the other people around us. And we don't have to be the owner. We don't have to be the leader. We can be the guy, because Jack, whoever that was running around your office saying, I don't get ready because I am ready, that he wasn't the owner, right? I mean, like he was a guy that worked on a team. He said, this is my energy. This is my gift to share with everyone else.
Yep.
Oh, so good. I was listening to Bill Mitchell the other day. He heads up this monthly group called City Lead. Here in Boca, here we call it Boca Lead, but it's throughout the country and throughout the world, really. It's called City Lead. And he was saying, leaders hire for initiative. Like, what does that mean? It means you hire the man or woman who's demonstrated, right, their preparedness. Like the ones who have the initiative, you hire for initiative. In fact, surround yourself with people who are better than you in the areas that you're not in charge of. Like that's what a good leader does. You got to get rid of ego. You got to get all that stuff off the table. If you want your organization to grow, hire for initiative. I thought that was an incredibly insightful viewpoint.
Yeah. I have here. Let me see if I can set this up. So look, there's this image. I couldn't size it right. Mike's myself. I couldn't size it right. So if you've seen this image online, right? This is a hallway full of balloons, and there's a little story that goes with it. A teacher put all these balloons in the hall, right? And she said to the kids, "Hey, you got to go find a balloon with your name on it. You got 5 minutes. Go out and find it." Right? So they go out in the hall, and almost none of the kids in a long hallway of balloons could find the balloon with their name on it. Right? So then she blows a whistle, and everyone stops. And then she says, "Hey, here's what I want you to do now. Everybody go grab a balloon and give it to the person," because they all knew each other, "give it to the person whose name that's on it." And then literally within 90 seconds, every child had the balloon with their name on it. So she lets that sit as a little lesson. And then I wanted to read it specifically. It said, "Hey, the balloons are like happiness. No one will find it looking for only theirs. Instead, if everyone cares about each other's, they will find theirs as quickly as possible." And so much of that is, some of those lessons that we're talking about. It's like, hey, what are you trying to do? If you're just looking out for yourself and getting your own thing, we talk about being prepared and success and opportunity. I'll just say this. One of the taglines I have in my office is "enjoy the journey," #enjoy the journey above my door whenever it would come and go. Because we have this thing like, oh, once I get that job, or once I marry that person, or once I'm in that house, or if I just got that car, I promise you. When that comes, it's like a Disney ride. It comes, you have it, and within 2 weeks, everything's back to normal, and you're like, huh,
yeah,
it's a nice house, but it doesn't change your soul, right? It doesn't, and that's what we're chasing. I think that's what Chris talks a lot about, right? It's like, hey, I love that phrase. What is it? A job is what you're paid for. Your calling is what you're made for, right? I love that phrase.
Man, I tell you what, Jack, that is so true. I posted something yesterday on LinkedIn about how we in America especially, but in the world, quite honestly, we waste so much time and energy chasing identities, right? But the problem is the identity is what the world's yelling about, right? Like we just waste so much time trying to create identity that people around us applaud. And what a waste of time! Like as we're looking to a broken, lost, and hurting world to create our definitions. I mean, that quite honestly is insanity. Rather than taking the identity that we've been given, right? Taking a full inventory of who we are. Here's my skill set. Here's my personality bent. Here's my compulsions. Here's my loves, my passions. Instead of taking those things, which we've been given and are just naturally and divinely gifted at, we're trying to chase something the world's screaming at us. Yeah. But the world is broken. The world is lost. The world is hurting. We can't let those people define us, man. That's a waste of time and energy. That is the opposite of preparedness, quite honestly.
Yep, so true.
There's another book I was reading called QBQ.
A lot of books today. There's a lot. I got to get to more reading. I got to get to
questions behind the question. And what was really interesting about it, he said, I put a new twist on the serenity prayer. He said, God, give me the serenity to change only the people I can change. Give me the serenity to accept those that I can't change. Then give me the wisdom to realize I'm the only one that I can change. Oh, and I love that because what Chris was describing, all those people that are judging us, they're also trying to change us, right? They're trying to say that you're not the you I need you to be. Listen, be the you were made to be, and you have a purpose, right? There's another good book called Strength to Strength, but in that book it says you have to have purpose and you have to have fun, but you can't just have fun and you can't just have purpose. You've got to have purpose and you've got to enjoy it, because the purpose is what gets you through the parts that aren't fun, right? And the fun's going to energize the purpose. And so it's just one of those things that works together. But if he just kept talking about that purpose, you got to have a purpose in what you're doing. And the Bible says that we were created in God's workmanship, that he made plans for us that we should do them, right? That we should do them. And so like, that's what we were created for. And it's so interesting. It's not for us to decide. It's for us to discover. And once it's discovered and revealed, ride that horse, right? That's the horse. That's the horse that's going to get you there. Not I love that term Chris uses, the Walmart version of another person. Yeah. Be the unique and powerful, wonderful you were created to be. And it's going to be different than everybody else on the planet. But only you were designed to do your purpose. So do it.
I think you hit on one thing too that's really important when we talk preparedness is also the ability to rest and have some downtime, right? I think we've come, to me, watching it over the last few years, we've come almost like full circle, right? Prior to the last 2 years, like work 24/7, I'm a workaholic, gotta work hard, play hard, right? And I just think everything that happened with COVID and work from home, and I think we've just seen a lot more openness about mental health and what's the right balance. And just my personal opinion, we may have gone too far in that, right? I'm just going to sit home and I'm never going to go in the office and I want to, what have you. So just my little, get on my soapbox there. But I think it's important for folks to find the right balance of I'm going to work and be focused and maximize my talents. And also the ability to recharge your batteries, sleep well, take care of your health, not always be on, be a good family person, right? Those, you got to find the right balance. We're not so about preparedness as 24/7, be the best in your career. In fact, we talk about the true success. We're not even talking about your career. It could be anything. Maybe you're the best mom, ever. Maybe you're the best, a volunteer at your church ever. Maybe you're the best foster parent. Whatever success looks like for you, it's typically not what the world tells you it is. And so that's really what we want you to focus on is like, what's true success? So when you lay down at night, you put your head on the pillow, you have peace in your belly, right? Because that's what we're all chasing. You're not, the money is a thing, but it's the peace in your belly. So when you put your head on the pillow, you're like, no angst, you feel great. Those are the moments we cherish, right? And as I was just thinking about it, some of the weather events going on around the country, like you never know, that can also be taken, right? You might have the best plan ever. I was actually driving from Texas to Maryland. I had a whole plan. I'm like, just please don't let it snow in the Southeast. Well, I didn't know there was all these windstorms, so I couldn't even travel. I'm like, the weather just took over. You never know when you're going to get a little curveball to deviate from your preparedness. But make sure you find the right balance so it's healthy in the long term. We're running a marathon, not a sprint. Amen?
So true, man. Jack, you said about being the best. You can only be the best you. Yeah. You still might be in fourth place. right? It doesn't mean you're going to be the best in a group because you're being the best you. Because in the story that Chris told about the people, the 3 servants with the talents, the guy that came back with 4 talents, the other guy came back with 10. He came back with 4, but he got well done. Same answer. Well done. Well done. You did what you needed. You did what you were made to do. Yeah. That's the well done. Not that I'm better than anybody else at it, but I did what I just did what I was made to do. Yep. You know, and I can't help but this is the same team. This is the book that I wrote with my wife. My wife and I wrote this book. We finished that book in 2009. We didn't publish it till 2012. In 2010, we edited it 3 times. In 2011, we edited it 3 times. And then somebody said, "When are you going to publish your book?" Because they'd already published their book. And I was like, "Well, we're probably going to edit it again." He said, "Print it." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "That's what second editions are for. If you ever, iterate. Like that was such a oh. So I just printed it. We probably could have fixed it after we printed it. There's a couple things we could have fixed, but here's what's crazy. Nothing was significant enough that we would make a second edition, right? We're like, it's good enough. But we got it out the door. And in preparation, you don't want to over prepare. You've got to go. And you've got to realize that go with what you've got, go with what you know, and you can adapt. You can adjust. You can make changes. It's not in software, they call it the minimally viable product.
Yeah.
Right? The book, it could be the first edition, right? Or whatever it is, but get it out the door and let's learn where the real issues are, because we've been fixing issues that don't matter.
Right. When you do that, it'll be different. Like it can look good on the whiteboard, and the public, the customers, the world will tell you feedback that you are not anticipating when you're just in your own little vacuum. Right.
Right. There's a saying in it's about the Six Sigma movement. They call it plan, do, check, adjust. Right? Plan, do, check, adjust. Well, plan and do, then check what you got and then adjust. Yeah. Right. And so, it just keeps going. So don't sit around planning and waiting to do. There's a great verse in Proverbs 16:9. It says, man makes plans, God directs his steps. Yeah. A very modern interpretation of that is God doesn't move parked cars. Yeah. Like it says, you got to get going. He'll adjust your steps. Right. But you got to get going. You got to make your plan. You got to get going and then make room for God to change the direction and what you're doing.
That's so good, Mike. You know what? If I had to just give some advice, some final advice for someone as you're walking through the question of preparedness in your life, like let's make some eye contact here. I love you. Here's the deal. Use your God-given abilities and skill sets in the place that you're currently planted. Like there's great intentionality about you being where you are right now. Like the people that are around you, the people who are orchestrating your life in this very moment, there's an expectation that you will use your skill sets, your abilities, your passions in the place that you're planted. Yeah. And here's the deal. If God chooses to raise you to prominence, don't worry about that. If he chooses to raise you to prominence, look in my eyes here. It's because you were humble enough to use your gifts in a place of obscurity without the spotlight. Doing that shows the Lord that you are ready for greater things, but you have to be humble enough to use them in the places where no one sees you. That's the idea behind this. And trust me, he's so faithful in this.
Yeah, that's great. Great point. Mike, best tip to be prepared, your best preparedness tip.
Prepare, go. Don't be afraid.
Amen.
There you go.
Listen, appreciate everyone's time and energy. Hopefully, the model, if you're wondering, on social media, on the internet, you will see constantly a lot of the replay of that race. And so just encourage you to go watch that. It's amazing. You'll see that horse, not only how they performed, how in the last, literally, I think there are 20 horses in the race. I think that horse was at 17th as it's around the last turn. So just encourage you to go watch. It's amazing, some of the commentary as you watch the end of that race. So good. Any last tips? Any last things, Chris, Mike? Any last things you want to leave with the audience?
Well, just saying on that race, Jack, that there were 20 horses with 20 plans, and somebody's plan was to stay in the back until that's your strength, right? They planned for their strengths. We finished strong. Somebody else came out of the gate in first place. I don't even know where they finished, but and that's the funniest thing about good plans is that they play to your strengths than you, not play, because you think if you're not a horse racing guy, come out and finish the race, win it wire to wire, but that's not how horse races are usually won. And I never get it. I always think the guy out the gate is going to win, and I've never seen it happen. I don't watch enough horse racing. But the plan, it's who had the best plan for the horse that they're riding. And in life, we're the horse that we're riding.
Right. Jack, you kind of hit on it just a second ago. It's like, look, we have limited time and resources, right? Like by definition, we are finite creatures. So one of the great gifts, I heard Pastor Matt Chandler say this, and it really hit home. It's like one of the great gifts of knowing what your calling is, like taking inventory of what you're uniquely skilled at. One of the great gifts of that is knowing now that you can say no to certain things. Like sometimes we spread ourselves so thin because we want to be everything to everybody. But when you know what your calling is, when you know the place that you've been gifted and you're prepared for, then you can actually say no to other things. And that opens up incredible time for us to grow in quite honestly, the things that are important, which are family, health, and faith. When you do that, you'll see that extra time really makes a difference.
Amen. So true. Listen, that's great. Look, remember, you want to, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Amen. So,
Amen. Stay ready.
I want to thank the folks again. I.help. Go out and get your I.help account. $5. Cannot beat it. Amazing, amazing solution. Go get your iHelp account. Thank you all so much. We will see you next week, next Wednesday, back here for our last of 12 tips. We will see you.
See ya.